I hope you are seeing friendly faces, parents, people you may know. While you're joining, you could add your name and your the school where your student attends in the chat box so that we know who's here and have an idea of who we're talking to. I think it makes it a little more personal. We have people joining from the phone who we may not get to see, but we're happy to have them just as much as those of us who are able to be at a computer. And team, I am going to just admit everyone who's in the waiting room. And that does include our partners, I believe from KPRC. All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. As I mentioned, as you were joining in, will you please add your name and where your students attend so that we have an idea of who is all in the room? We wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to get to know our families, our students, just a little bit more, and give you an opportunity to hear the district's re-entry plan as we approach an absolutely new normal. I feel like this is a little bit of what we did the first go round, where we were approaching a new normal, and now it's a new normal. And so what we will hope to do is we will use your time wisely. We're going to honor it and get you on your way by 3:00 p.m. And you'll hear from several members of the district's leadership team. And then we'll have an opportunity to answer some of your questions. As you hear throughout the presentation, do not hesitate to add your questions in the chat. We are recording this information so that we can share with other families who were not able to attend this session. We did cap it at 500 parents, and as you know, with 67,000 students, there are quite a bit more parents who may have an interest, but we also know that time and schedule don't always account for that. My name is Shalia Reed, and I'm the Chief Communications Officer. I'm very lucky to serve Aldine Independent School District, and happy to see your smiling faces. You can't see everyone, maybe you can. There are 8 pages of you that I'm looking at, and I'll tell you, it's hard not to want to wave at everyone. And I see some of the kiddos and I get excited that the students are here. And so just bear with us. We haven't, not all of us get to see students often. And so there's a little bit of yearning to see and love on our students because we haven't seen them in so many months. But we know that what's important here is that we have an opportunity to share with you what is going on in all the And so I'm going to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Latanya M. Goffney, who will kick us off. And she should be showing up and you can hear her voice. Dr. Goffney?
Good afternoon, Aldine. I am super excited and thrilled that you joined us. I recognize that your time is precious. I also understand that it is a new normal, so having to call in is certainly different than if we were face-to-face. And God knows that I look forward to the time when we can have these meetings face-to-face and just discuss all the great things that are happening in Aldine. What's top of mind for you, I'm sure, is our Return to Learn plan. I'm sure you've gone on the website and you've heard about it, you've read about it, and you're seeing different things and you have questions. We wanted to make this first large town hall a little bit more interactive. So we're gonna see how it works. You'll have an opportunity at the end to hear from some of our leaders in smaller groups. In addition, please do not hesitate to write your questions in the chat. what I can assure you of, as we started and came into this crisis, we wanted to make sure that we were communicating and communicating well. And one thing that we recognize is we want to be very transparent, and we want to give you information. And we recognize, because the information is always changing, it's always important that we communicate. So I'm very thankful for the job of our communications office, who works fervently to give you the information that you need so that you can make really good decisions. As Ms. Reed alluded to, we're going to respect your time and get right to it. They're about to start sharing a presentation. That way we can post the presentation and you can follow along as we go through it. As you all know, March 6th kind of changed things for many of us, especially in Aldine, and it's the date that's forever embedded in my mind, because it was the date that we celebrated our Teachers of the Year. And immediately after celebrating our Teachers of the Year, it was the Friday before spring break, so everyone was looking forward to spring break. We thought, COVID-19, the coronavirus is what it was called at that time, was just, if we sent a flyer and told our students and our teachers and everyone to practice good hand washing. And pretty much we thought that was going to be the end of it. We thought that this was something that was happening across the globe, and we were just going to go to spring break. So as they're sharing their slides, I'm setting this up. We went to spring break, and then as we went to spring break, the rodeo was being canceled. And we're like, whoa, this is not just a global issue. Looks like this is about to become a U.S. issue, an Aldine issue specifically. And so I remember, as we were thinking about how we were going to come back after spring break, and having to talk with board members and our ELT working fervently, and our professional learning team coming up with a plan for what if we cannot come back to school. And I'm thrilled at the way our district was able to respond. In light of it, he stood up at home learning and was able to communicate to our parents and our students, and do the best we could under the conditions that we were in. And so we finished the spring semester, and we were thankful. And we think back to April and May, we probably thought, I can assure you we thought, because we met with the seniors, we met with different parents, we met with different stakeholders, and we were actually told that it was going to get better during the summer, and it hasn't gotten better. In actuality, it's gotten worse, as it spiked in Houston and also in Aldine specifically. And so we've been working overtime on our return to learn plan. And the things that were top of mind, number one is safety. Not only the safety of our staff, but also the safety of your students as we think about how we're gonna come back. In addition, we wanted to have multiple voices. We didn't want to just create a plan and roll it out and not fit our community. So there were some guiding principles that we considered, and I want you to pay close attention because they're really important to the work, and will hopefully assure you that Aldine is making the best decisions that we possibly can for not only our staffs, but for your students, because we're so thankful that you choose Aldine. Perhaps the most important one is that we will open our physical buildings as fast as we can, but as slow as we must. I want you to hear that and hear it well, because you know that we launched a strategic plan and we have bold goals, because we want all of our students graduating not only with a high school diploma, but with choices and opportunities. But in order to do that, we got to return safely, because if our teachers are not safe and our leaders aren't safe and we're not taking safety precautions, then we won't be able to teach our kids effectively anyway. So safety takes priority over education right now, even though both are important. And as conditions change, and that was also important, we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to do what neighboring districts were going to do. We weren't going to wait to see what this district was going to do or what this area was going to do. We wanted to make the very best decisions for Aldine. And so we understand that we're going to return when the conditions allow us to return. And so those have been perhaps our most important principle. In addition, the safety has been the priority, the top priority. And we also recognize, as we think about our plan, what it's called Return to Learn. We are prioritizing learning, and that learning is going to occur whether it's in our buildings, where learning at school, or it's in your homes, learning at home. But we're going to share with you what our plans are and how we're going to make sure that both of them are rigorous experiences and meet the needs of you, your parents, because you're best able to make those choices. We've been trying to have a collaborative effort Many groups and many departments have been working on this plan. We've taken feedback and right now, and we've listened to various stakeholders, and we hope that, that's evident in what we share. And as always, we've said from day one that education matters and it's important, and we're concerned and we are focused on our strategic priorities, and we're going to do the best job that we can to make sure that regardless of which decision you make for your child, that we're able to meet your child's needs. And so we're going to go ahead and get started and get into the meat of the presentation, because what's top of mind for most includes what are our instructional models, and many of you are familiar with those, and you're going to hear from Dr. Todd Davis, and he's going to explain them to you. And again, keep your questions coming. Also, what the registration and commitment process looks like. Many of you have already started, but we want you to help us to get the word out so that others will know. In addition, health and safety, again, that was our first core belief, that we will come back as soon as we can, but we're going to come back in a safe manner, and we want you to hear about some of the protocols that we are having to put in place so that your child will be safe and our teachers will be safe. And then we want you to stay connected. We know that we have an hour with you right now, but we want to remind you of all the ways that you can get information. So with that said, we're going to try to keep it moving, and we're going to go to instructional models at this time. You're going to hear from our Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Todd Davis. And while he's coming up, I'm going to ask Mr. Adrian, because I know working from home, you may see my daughter and you may hear my husband singing. So we're going to go ahead and mute everyone, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Todd Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone, parents, community members. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon and taking the time for us to share some information with you, but most importantly, to get your questions. And we will do our best through the presentation to hopefully address most of the questions, but of course, we'll try to get as many answers to you as possible today. As Dr. Goffney said, we have two learning models that have been designed for our students for the 2020-21 school year. And this is an option for parents to choose between either one of these two models. The Learning on Campus model is, of course, a traditional in-person educational experience on campus. And then for those parents that weren't quite ready to send their students back and felt like learning at home was still the right option, we are preparing that as an option for you. It's very important to understand, though, and I want to emphasize what Dr. Goffney said, that our learning at home option is significantly different than what you experienced as a learning at home parent in the spring. The response in the spring was really just an immediate response to the crisis, and to make sure that we were providing opportunities for students to engage in learning. But what we're really looking at as we move into the fall and our learning at home option is that we need to make sure that we are engaging with students every day. That students have an opportunity to engage with their teachers and receive feedback from their teachers every single day. And we know without that level of engagement and that level of feedback, learning just doesn't happen. And that's what we're in the business of doing, is making sure that our students are learning at high levels and they're progressing at the rate that we all expect them to progress in for success in the future. Now, our learning models have some similarities between both learning on campus and learning at home. We expect that our teachers will be following the curriculum and assessment schedules that are outlined by Aldine. That is just not to change. We expect the same level of continuation with curriculum and assessment on both ends. Grading guidelines do not change. Your grades will be taken in both models, and our students must be passing their courses in order to be promoted or get credit and to graduate. Very important. Daily attendance is required in both models, and that is especially important to emphasize in the learning at home model. There will be attendance taken every single day, and I will talk about that a little more in depth in just a moment, but it's important that we know that if you choose the learning at home model, that students must log in and engage every day. Now, students are English learners. We will still follow LPAC processes and procedures as normal. 504 and special education service students, it's really important to emphasize that services and support will continue in both models as outlined by the student's IEP. That does not change in either model. And then, of course, when it comes to at-home learning, we want to make sure that all student privacy standards, and that is an assurance to our parents that we're going to make sure that that is in place. Now, as we go on to the next slide in the presentation, and this is a presentation, I think it would be important to note that we presented to principals, our board members, to our teachers, and you're seeing that same information, and felt it was important for you to see the level of expectations that we're setting for our teachers. And that also will give you an understanding of the experience your students will have in each of the environments. First of all, learning on campus, of course, that is exactly what you've experienced in traditional schooling. One additional layer to that, though, is that we will be creating a blended model, which means that even though students are getting face-to-face instruction from their teachers, there will be expectation of them to still engage in their Schoology coursework throughout the school year. So every week, there will be expectations for students to engage in their Schoology course and get feedback from teachers through Schoology. By doing so, that's preparing students that if we were to pivot from a face-to-face to an all virtual, for any reason, that our students are better prepared to do that. Now, learning at home. This is where I really want to emphasize how we are increasing our expectations of our teachers and then the expectations of students too, in the experience that they'll be provided. Teachers are going to be building and maintaining a Schoology course every day. They have our coursework every day. That means that every day students will experience a video recording of instruction by their teacher or another teacher of the similar subject in that campus. They may also have the opportunity for a broadcast of a live broadcast of that instruction from the teacher. In addition to that recording of instruction, they will also have daily activities in Schoology that they'll complete that goes along with that lesson. And what teachers are expected to do on a daily basis is to go in and engage with that work in Schoology and be providing feedback to their students. Now, in addition to that, our teachers will be required for small group instruction, face-to-face, small group instruction every single day. And that will be small group instruction. Selected students, those students who are struggling, who are having a hard time in the virtual environment, will have that opportunity to meet with their teachers every day. And teachers will have office hours twice a day. And those office hours are dedicated for one-on-one support with students, time for parents to access teachers, to ask questions, get additional support. And we're really excited about that opportunity for additional feedback every single day through those office hours. Now, as I said, feedback, it's extremely important. And like I said, we expect daily feedback from the teacher to the student. And when it comes to the learning at home side, the virtual side, that again will come through Schoology. It might not be a phone call every day or a face-to-face live interaction, but it will be notes, chats, responses to lessons and activities that the teachers have loaded into their Schoology. Now, next slide that I'd like to emphasize is that the instructional minutes and attendance requirements in the state of Texas have not changed in either model. Of course, if we're learning at home, we're going to still follow the Aldine master schedule and attendance recording and the expected number of minutes that students must attend school every day. On the learning at home side, it takes a little bit of a different form, but we do expect students to be in attendance every single day. And our teachers in their lessons, there are different ways that we can ensure that students are present in the work every day. And that can be that either the student is logged into to Schoology and progressing in their work. We can show that through finding a timestamp, how much time they spend in Schoology. It could be that they did have a live teacher-student interaction. That could be through the small group instruction, or it could even be over the phone that the teacher has worked with the student and had some type of interaction. We can mark the student present for that. And then in addition, that if a student turns in an assignment that day, then they can be marked present. So our teachers will be monitoring these attendance markers throughout the day, and then they'll be recording students present if any one of these markers have been met. Now, it's also important to note that, all of these expectations that we have on our teachers, that we are working very hard to train them up on every single aspect of the increased expectations. Our training for teachers has begun this week, and there is a wide opportunity of subjects for our teachers to engage in. But what our goal is, from my department, teaching and learning, is to design a system that will provide excellent instruction for students, but also train our teachers to function at a high level within that environment. So that, again, the learning experience that a student has either at home or at school, that there is the same level of quality in either one of those environments. And again, we encourage your questions, and we'll hopefully be able to answer them throughout the presentation. But at this time, I'm going to pass it on to one of my colleagues for the next step of the presentation.
Good afternoon, parents. So right now you should have received an email, a flyer, a call, a text informing you about the student commitment form process. We begin this process on Monday, hoping to wrap the process up on Sunday. During this process, we have asked that you go in for each student and select the learning models that Dr. Davis was referring to. We will use these forms to guide us in our master scheduling. We realize that we only gave you a week. It seems like a short amount of time. Rest assured that our hope is that we're scheduling students, but that we will give you times throughout the year to reassess your learning model, specifically at the end of the 9 weeks, to change your selection if needed due to circumstances. These forms, should you not be able to complete the forms, because I've received both calls and emails, there is a button on our Return to Learn website where you can complete the form. If you have any issues completing that form, there is a Let's Talk button, and I would highly encourage you that Let's Talk button so that you can reach out to us so that we are able to assist you in getting your students registered in the learning model that you feel most appropriate. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my next colleague so that they can review health and safety protocols.
Okay, welcome again. Good afternoon. Happy to see everyone on the call today. I'm just going to give a few updates about where we are as it relates to health and safety, and making certain that as we prepare to engage our learners, whether it's face-to-face or online, that we have protocol in place to ensure that our facilities are safe. So as we think about PPE, I'm pretty certain you all have heard that term quite frequently over the past few months. Personal protective equipment. And personal protective equipment can include face coverings, which could be a mask or a shield, gloves, sanitizer, and disinfectant. We will be providing PPE to each of our campuses and our staff at the campuses to help ensure we reduce the spread of this COVID-19 virus that is upon us at this time. Also, throughout our facilities, we have limited access at this point, but once we begin to transition back in, you'll be able to see throughout our campuses and other non-instructional facilities different types of signage that promote health and safety precautions. And these different signage, you may have seen them if you've been to the grocery store or any other places throughout your community, telling you to, if you're feeling sick, to please stay home, to practice social distancing, and to make certain that you're at least 6 feet apart. Hand washing, we talked about that a little bit earlier, the importance of washing your hands for 20 seconds or more. So our buildings will be outfitted with this different signage all throughout the building to help promote the importance of health and safety. As we move forward here in the presentation, want to share with you, Adrienne, some of the ways that we have responded to enhancements in our current facilities to make certain that the workplace is healthy and safe. So we've put in place an enhanced cleaning regimen, which includes, but is not limited to, frequent cleaning of highly touched areas. We use an EPA-approved disinfectant. We've even invested in these misters that allow us to spray and clean large spaces in a more timely and efficient manner. And of course, I've talked a little bit about the social distancing signage that is all throughout, or will be all throughout, each of our facilities in the PPE. But you'll also see that other modifications are being made to different buildings in the district, which may include plexiglass or sneeze guards. Again, if you've been out in the community or our community at any point, you may see those plastic shields or barriers that have been put in place to limit the spread if you happen to cough or sneeze or what have you. You'll see on the picture here to the right, that's a picture that's in our, that's a space, if you will, that's in our Donaldson Administration Building, which is where we host our school board meetings. It's where our superintendent's offices and other departments throughout the district are located in this particular facility. And that is the receptionist area there, where we have input a new plexiglass shield so that when guests come in, there's social distancing sign on the floors. There's also a sanitation station that will also be throughout our building. So as you enter the buildings, you can sanitize your hands upon entry. If you'll move forward for me, please. Also, please note that as far as what we are doing to ensure that our students have what they need and are safe, technology, I know that there's an ongoing conversation about technology and will students have devices for the upcoming school year. Of course, we've gone through a couple of series of device distributions prior to this point to help put devices in our students' hands to prepare for summer experiences and whatnot. And our goal is still to have put a device in each student's hand. But we know at this moment in time that we don't have a sufficient supply of devices to accommodate all 67,000 students. However, we have partnered with multiple individuals or multiple entities such as the City of Houston. We've also partnered with other philanthropic organizations that are helping us to secure additional devices. We know that internet access and connectivity continues to be a challenge for some of our families. We do have a limited amount of hotspots available, and many of them were dispersed during the first round of distributions. So while we know that we may not have enough devices for each student to receive their own individual device, we are hopeful that we will still be able to accommodate our families, that whether you choose online learning or whether you choose face-to-face learning, the goal is to be able to equip our families with a device so that they will be able to continue to support the learning needs of their child or of their student. As we think about transportation, I know there may be many questions about what is that going to look like? And then when you complete your parent commitment form or your student commitment form, that is so essential, because not only will you note if you need a device on that form, as Dawn just described, you will also be noting whether or not you need transportation. And please know that we are working diligently to make certain that all of our buses are clean and safe. Upon entering a school bus, students will be required to sanitize their hands. There will be sanitizing what I'm going to call a little station on the bus upon entry. Buses will be sanitized after routes, and students will be expected to wear a face covering. At this time, we are planning to have students sitting one child per seat. That is the current projection. However, please note, as we transition back and based on the feedback that we receive from the surveys that are being, or the commitment forms that are being completed, we will make adjustments to that perhaps along the way. If you're having questions about meals and how will my family or my student continue to receive meals, we are actively engaged in conversations around what is that going to look like. one option is to continue the curbside meal distribution process. Many families, as you can see over to the right, we've serviced or we've provided just over 1 million meals to our students and families. So excited to be able to extend that opportunity to make certain our students have what they need. As we transition back into the instructional year and the school calendar year, we recognize that we may have to tweak the time of the meal distributions to ensure that we can accommodate working parents that perhaps may not be able to pick up their meals until the evening for their families. So meals will be available again, whether you choose online learning or whether you choose face-to-face learning. So further information regarding how meals will be distributed will be provided. Again, just wanted to show just a graphical display of what a school bus could look like. In this case, you see here, it's equipped to seat more than 26 students, but in the discussions that we are having or the models that we are currently preparing, we are planning for 1 student to sit in each seat. But again, it is contingent upon multiple variables. So please make certain that you are submitting your commitment form, because that will help drive the decisions that will be made here going forward. And as we transition from our transportation guidelines, I believe the next piece is going to be discussing, we'll talk a little bit about reducing the spread.
Yes, good afternoon. So I know many of you are concerned about what we are doing to mitigate any factors as far as campuses. And for those of you who chose on-campus learning, when we do resume to that, our #1 priority is the health and safety of our students and staff. Please know that we have consulted with our health services department as well as our county public health department experts to ensure the safety of all of those in our buildings. Several of you have asked regarding face coverings. We are following the governor's as well as TEA guidance regarding that. Face coverings will be required for all staff and students 10 years of age and older when on campus. There are many mitigation strategies that we are implementing on the campuses to reduce the possible spread of COVID-19 in our schools. Some of these many strategies include daily employee self-screenings that, again, will be done every morning before they enter the campus, student pre-screenings for symptoms as well as health, enhanced routine cleaning and disinfecting, physical distancing in classrooms and common areas. Please also know, as many of you have been on several of our campuses, each one is very unique, very different as well as far as capacity of classrooms and common spaces. And so we are evaluating each of those to determine what the capacity is in those areas. We also are working on frequent hand hygiene by students and staff on campuses, as well as limiting facility access that includes to visitors and other people who are not considered essential staff to what needs to happen on the campus. So as far as response, we are following an incident reporting protocol for any student, staff member that is in close contact, symptomatic, or positive test. Those are 3 separate areas, and we are following our protocols for those. If the district is notified that a student or employee has a positive COVID-19 test, we are conducting contact tracing to identify and notify close contacts for possible quarantine and isolation. And notification will be sent to parents, students, and employees of that facility, and the Harris County Public Health Department will also be notified. Just a few other things. We understand that the on-campus experience is going to look different this year as we limit interactions and movement around the school. So right now, every campus principal has mobilized what we have called a campus redesign team. They are evaluating the classroom spaces and shared spaces for that capacity. We are reviewing arrival procedures, cafeteria, transitions in hallways, restrooms, dismissal. And all of those will be shared once we have all of the protocols in place. And I will now be turning it over, I believe, to Miss Reed.
All right. I don't know that we've done this quickly. I have noticed that there are several questions in the chat, and please know we're watching them, trying to answer them. And some of your questions are very specific, and so at this moment, I'll tell you, we may not have the answer down to the details. What we've learned is that the word of the year is flexible. We've also learned it's nimble, and we are just trying to make sure we're communicating with you as quickly and as possible and as fully as we can. And so as Dr. Todd Davis started off at the beginning of his presentation, he mentioned that we have asked parents to choose between two options, an at-home option and an on-campus option, and how they complete their learning. And those two options would have begun on August 17th, which was our first day of school. I want you to know that my team monitors social media and Facebook and Instagram and internet, and we've answered a lot of questions about that. And even here, there are a lot of questions about, I'm just very concerned about sending my child back to school now when in Harris County there is a spike. And so after much consideration, lots of conversation, as Dr. Goffney mentioned, talking to health officials, other school districts, we are moving forward with the first 3 weeks of our school year being held virtually. So what that means is that there will not be students in our classrooms on the first 3 weeks of school. We'll use that time for teacher training. We'll use that time for making sure we have completed all of our protocols. But as many of you know, things are still changing. And the truth is until there is a change in what the level 1 in Harris County, it will be difficult to welcome students back. It will be difficult to have staff back. And so I encourage you to remember these dates. August 17th is the day your child should begin school, still their first day of school. Unfortunately, they won't be laying their clothes out on the end of the bed with their shoes, but they will begin instruction on that day. Someone asked in the chat group, but what about teachers in Aldine who have students? What are we going to do with them? We don't have an answer today. We did make a decision that we would like teachers to teach from classroom buildings so that they could have access to computers, scanners, and their supplies. But as Dr. Goffney mentioned, and as I'll remind you, we are flexible, listening and hearing what is going on in our community. And so that can change. We did talk to principals and said the same thing to them. So we need to get through August 3rd, August 6th, which is when professional development will start for our teachers. It will be held virtually. And as we get closer to August 17th, we will make a determination about what happens for our classroom teachers. So I want you to know that our academic calendar did not change. There are many districts in the area who have come out and maybe said that they're going to start school in September or they're going to start school in October. And they could do that. For Aldine, we had a very intense academic calendar review process last year. Our board approved the calendar in February. As COVID entered the equation, we had another process where we got feedback from our staff, students, some stakeholders, and we asked, what do you want to do with our calendar? And at that time, we made a decision to keep our calendar as is. It has room for breaks. We have enough minutes to accommodate if we have to make changes, but we are not changing our calendar as though many of the other districts have. So our virtual teaching, our virtual learning will be held, students will be at home. So that's that. Dr. Goffney, did you want to add anything there?
just so we're clear, it was a shock. You know, again, we assumed that by July we would be in a better position, and it has spiked in Houston. And many times when people consider Houston or Harris County, stating Aldine specifically, some of the highest zip codes are located in Aldine ISD schools. And one of the things that was interesting is the highest zip code is 77338. That's the most deaths in Harris County. And that is my zip code. That's the zip code that I live in. So safety is top of mind, it's paramount. And so with that being said, I was pleased that the commissioner has talked extensively about being able to begin remotely, even the governor and others. But I was also thankful that we had a board, and safety is top of mind. We want everyone to remain safe. And so as we're putting these different protocols in place and we phase in those students who have selected learning at school, we want to make sure that we have the best procedures, the best protocols that keep our students safe. In order for us to be able to do remote learning and virtual learning, of course, we've got to make sure that our teachers have the PD, and we're planning for that. Of course, as they've already alluded to, it's going to be a different experience than we had in the spring, and we're excited about that. And yes, you're right, sir. We should have had one-to-one a long, long time ago. But the one thing that COVID has shown us is that there must be an urgent focus as we move forward. And so we're not going to sleep. We're not going to rest. It's a priority of the board. It's a priority of our Harris County. It's a priority of the mayor that we have equity and access. And so we're working towards it. But unfortunately for us, is the whole world is working towards it. And so as we're putting in our orders to get our hotspots, to get our Chromebooks, we're backed up, but we feel confident that we're going to be able to have those during this process. So please, I know that you have a lot of questions, and I know that there's certain things that you may hear and think, okay, I need more clarity on this. I promise you this, and they told me not to promise anything, but I promise you this, your questions will become a part of the FAQ, and we're going to get you the information that you need. And I also promise you, first is safety, but second is making sure your child has a great experience regardless of whether they choose at-home learning or learning at school. We're working to get devices, and meanwhile, if we don't have the devices, then we'll have access to our campuses where you can come into labs and and take care of the work. And we're going to, I wish we didn't have to do anything as it relates to this pandemic, but I think that as a district, as a community, we're going to use it as an opportunity to make sure that our students have the best experience, but also the access, devices, everything they need so that we can make good decisions. So we're hopeful that as we continue and it gets better, we may be able to end up having more students at school. But in the event that it doesn't get better and we have to pivot again, because we recognize the fall, I'm not a medical person at all. I know education, I don't know medical, but I was speaking to my husband earlier and he said, September, October, that's the flu season, that's pneumonia season. So the good thing about being able to pivot back and forth between learning at home and learning at school is that learning won't stop. And that's going to be the key for us, because we want to make sure that our students don't lose a year. And so we see it as a partnership. In the spring, you were teaching mostly. All of our parents were doing a lot of the teaching, and our teachers were providing the support as needed. But as we come back this time, I'm excited about the training that our professional learning teams have put together, and everyone has put together to make sure that our teachers have the skills they need in order to, regardless of whether your child chooses at home or at school learning, they'll have a great experience. So I'm excited about that. We know that, again, there are a lot of questions that I'm not going to attempt to answer all of them. That's why we're going to split you into smaller groups. And so we have people who can take care of that. Shalia?
Okay, will you go to the next slide, please? All right, so I want to make sure you understand that we have a page on our website. It is called the Return to Learn page. If you go straight to the website, there's a little box in the right-hand corner, and it has all of this information. Dr. Gothney mentioned our core beliefs. There's a link to our core beliefs. If you still have not made your decision about how your student will learn, there's more information about learning on campus and learning at home. And then it talks a little bit about what each instruction model includes. We have here on the form, it allows you to make that decision. And then the frequently asked questions that she mentioned are also listed on that website. What I have learned from every person that I've met, we've talked. I want you to know we're fielding phone calls, emails, some text messages, social media. When we send them to the FAQs, many of them have been able to address their concerns. I will be honest with you and tell you that they are high level. They will not go into detail about every single situation and every single case by case. What we know is that more information is shared with us as we're finalizing our decisions. We update our FAQs so that the information is there. Please, the next slide. As part of that, we know that our campus buildings are not open. And so many of us, we would have had a question about, I want to know about my child that's at Davis Middle School, Davis Ninth Grade Center. And you would just pick up the phone and call Davis Ninth Grade Center. Well, as you know, we are in level 1, which means we are asking only essential workers to be at work. Unfortunately, our receptionists are not there to answer the phone, but your questions matter. And so we've created a tool called Let's Talk. And I've shown you on here where you can find a link to both of those questions, and then you can select which option you have. And if you've used the tool, the questions are answered within 24 hours. We want to make sure we're answering your questions, and then as additional questions come up, or they come up more than twice, then we add them to our FAQs. Next slide. So Dr. Goffney talked about a lot of things, and I think you've heard some things. So one, I just want to make sure we need to finalize your student commitment form by Sunday. We will continue to host community forums and town halls in the coming weeks to talk about everything that's happening. And I want you to know it's not clear. It's very complicated, and things are changing very rapidly. We anticipate more announcements to come from the state today. And then what we need to do is evaluate how our district will move forward and how those things will impact our community. We talked about our loaner device deployment. Dr. Goffney alluded to the concept that we have ordered additional devices, we have ordered hotspots. It is very important to us. And what we've recognized is that there are parts of Aldine that do not have access to the internet. So whether you got Comcast or whether you wanted to use DirecTV, your area may not be able to pick up an internet signal. We recognize that. So we're working to identify other ways to get you access. And so just as we did in the spring, we will have a loaner device deployment where we will offer you the opportunity to pick up a loaner device. And if we have hotspots, we will make those available. I do want to drop in a little commercial break here and let you know that when we offered this in the spring, there were parents who said they were interested, and unfortunately, they did not come and pick up their devices. And so if you are really interested and need the devices, they are available. If you do not, we ask that you don't complete the form so that we can use the devices for someone else. As the school year begins, so we've talked about COVID a lot, but back to school is back to school. I mean, August is back to school. I haven't been to Walmart, but I would guess if you walk down the aisle at Walmart, they still have some back to school items up in their back to school section. So we know that many of you are thinking about, how will I meet my child's teacher? If I am going into the 9th grade, my child's going to the 9th grade, or my child's going to the 6th grade, how will they get orientation? And so you should know that our schools are pivoting to offer meet the teacher and orientation opportunities virtually, so that our students, so that you can meet them and interact with them. We also learned from the spring that many parents just need to know more about how to engage with Schoology. What do you mean by attendance, Dr. Davis? What do you mean by small breakout rooms? And so we will offer a series of parent trainings, either through your campus or at a larger scale, where you can sign up and learn exactly what the tool is used for, how to use the tool, are there questions, when should I log in, what device do I need? And we will offer those trainings. You can see the date and the time frame we're looking to offer those. I want to reiterate that again, our first day of school is still on August 17th. So on August 17th, as we will start taking attendance. That's the day students should begin logging on and learning and being engaged and expecting to receive feedback from their teachers. As we mentioned, remote learning is for 3 weeks. It's the first 3 weeks of school. And so during those first 3 weeks of school, students will only have remote learning. And then at the same time, I want to just remind you that during those first 3 weeks, we will not have access to UIL activities, after school activities. Everything will be virtual. And as we get closer to that day, we will again reconvene, discuss, look at the science, look at what's happening in our community, and be able to determine what is the best, healthiest way, safest way for our students and staff to have teaching and learning continue. I believe the next steps for us are for us to go into breakout rooms so that you can ask some of those specific questions to district leaders. And so Adrian Bustillos, our Chief Innovation Officer, will send us into those breakout rooms. Again, we are monitoring your questions, but in those breakout rooms, you have access to leaders who can answer some of them very specifically.
Great, all. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and push you all over to the breakout rooms. We'll have 10 minutes from here. So thank you for your attendance today. We'll see you in a bit.
I had lots of good questions. I hope that you all did too. And we were able to get them answered. Someone mentioned, how will we be able to hear what was said in all the breakout rooms? What will we do next? And so I want you to know that we worked really hard to think about the best way to approach this. And we heard from parents who said, I want to be able to ask my question directly. And sometimes when the groups are large, their question may not be answered because either they're too shy or there's a very long list. We will post this entire presentation, the video, to our website. And then many of the questions that came through the chat, we will add them to the FAQs so that they can be addressed. One question that came up that I think is very important to note is that at the end of the day, safety is important. Safety is a priority for every single one of our stakeholders, whether it's a student or a staff member. And we are keeping that top of mind. We aren't making a decision in a bubble. We're using information around us and the feedback you've given us. Someone gave me a great piece of feedback, Dr. Davis. They want to make sure they know what to do on the first day of school. And so we have to take those things into consideration and adjust the way we do business. And that's why we've had town halls like this, so we could ensure we're addressing our stakeholders' needs and questions. But I want you to know we value your time, we value your feedback, but as you walk away, know that you're now an ambassador for us. Your job now is to point your friends, your family members, your colleagues, even your students to the district website so that they can see the questions themselves, because many times the questions that you have already been asked by someone else and we place it in the FAQ. And so, yes, there will be more town hall meetings. We are having a town hall next week that will be completely done in Spanish. In Spanish, we have principal meetings every week to talk to principals. We also are talking to our district advisory committee. We are talking to our community leaders, and we are talking to several others to ensure we are getting the information. You should know, for us, stakeholder input is important. And so we'll continue to do those and get that information out. If nothing else, I noticed there are some questions here. And so we will make sure this recording is posted very shortly. Thank you for your time. I believe my email address is in the chat group. And then again, please be sure you go to the Return to Learn website and get familiar with the information there. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, please ensure that you've made a selection for your student that really will help us plan for many of the questions you asked: transportation, food, and building setup. And next week, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't hear from your principals, reminding you or asking you or checking in on you. Nothing else. We will talk to you soon. You guys stay safe. And as our mayor would say, mask up.
Miss Reed, can I give the good news about the expo?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yay. Okay, parents, I mean, we want to adjourn this meeting. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? We want to adjourn this meeting with great news because we want our students and our families to be excited about going back to school, no matter what, if it's virtually. Anyway, we want the kids to know that, yay, we're gonna be on a school. It's the 2020-2021 school year. So we are going to have a back to school drive-through expo on August 5th, which is a Wednesday at 11 a.m. at the MOC. And at this drive-through expo, we're gonna be, we're partnering with Baker Ripley. So we're gonna have food distribution, but we are also gonna be giving away backpacks with supplies. And we are getting donations from business partners and actually for some of the people attending this meeting as well, where we're asking for other kind of donations, sanitizing items, such as hand sanitizers, soap, but we are gonna have a celebration no matter what. So the back to school drive-through expo will be on August 5th at 11 a.m. at the MOC, and you are the first ones to know about it. We're working on the flyer, but I just wanna share the great news with you guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.